Radio at its best. Relax Radio.
Welcome back to Relax Radio. That's right, with me, Nick, keeping you guys company all the way until 6 p.m. That's right, we're talking about all the things that is going on right now in the UK. And we're discussing about a lot of different things. And with that, being said, there is also issues with the whole grace period right now. The EU is expected to extend the Northern Ireland Protocol grace period on chilled meat with caveats. So, these are things that they're doing right now. And they're discussing about this particular thing, and like I said, the whole thing is being addressed. And hey, if you want to be part of the show, it's simple. All you got to do is hit me up on those numbers, 07852-473-473. That's right, you can always call me. And also don't forget to download the app from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Carry us all day, every day, 365 24/7. That's right. And also don't forget to check us out on Instagram. That's right, we're pretty much big on social media. You can follow us on the socials. And we're pretty much big on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and like us, share us, follow us, subscribe. Definitely do all of that. And getting back to the topic at hand, though, the European Union is expected to agree to an extension to a grace period that would allow the continued export of unfrozen meats to Northern Ireland from Britain. So this is being talked about right now, and they are discussing about this and this particular matter. And right now, though, the situation, like I said, there has been a lot of back and forth, a lot of tugging and pulling between both sides of the playing field. Looking at all this, like I said, the European Union wants something from the UK, and the UK also want something from the EU, and there's a lot of tugging and going on. When looking at all of this right now, Northern Ireland is at the crossfire. So right now, though, the European Union is expected to agree to an extension to a grace period that would allow the continued export of unfrozen meats to Northern Ireland from Britain, a contentious point in the North post-Brexit arrangement. So London requested that a grace period set to expire next week to be extended until the end of September. So in case you guys are wondering, the grace period was supposed to end next week, but right now the plan is actually changing. Things are changing. Hopefully this is something that they can consider with this point, and they want to push it back to September. So that's right. This is also just a temporary solution to a dispute right now dubbed as very, very, right now this whole sausage situation is just going out of bounds, out of control. And this whole thing is overshadowing the Britain's post-Brexit debut on the world stage at the recent G7 in Cornwall. So at a meeting on Wednesday, the European Commission led on the relationships with the UK. Maros Sefcovic advised the 27 member state right now that they wanted to agree to extend the grace period granted to the UK. And with that address, there has been agreed that last year to give Britain time to implement the so-called protocol, the Northern Ireland Protocol. But the 27 provisionally backed the suggestion, but with the caveats that are to be worked out in negotiation with Britain over the coming days. This is all what the sources are talking about, and they're discussing about this particular thing, and they're saying, okay, this is something that we need to address, and how are we going to address this? And how are we actually going to look into this? Like I said, the situation is not as clear cut as we would like. And it's being addressed and being talked about as much as possible. And, this is, like I said, the discussions are going on about this. And there are talks about this particular matter being, discussed. We can only imagine what is going on with the UK and how they're going to handle this and how they're going to handle it with the EU. And a British source actually said London is awaiting the details of any European Commission's agreement to extend the grace period, including whether conditions are attached as well. So they're going to be talking about this, and they will be addressing this as they go along. And however, though, an early response to the UK's request for a 3-month extension would be viewed as an encouraging signal. That's right. So the issue arose because the EU has no provisions for unfrozen meats to be imported into the single market from the countries that don't follow its rules right now. So the UK is trying to make an issue out of this, and the EU is, trying to cause an issue. And just looking at all these things, it is rising, and there has been disputes about this particular thing. So the issues arose because, like I said, the EU has no provision for unfrozen meats to be imported into the single market from countries that do not follow its rules. So because fresh meat is a high risk item to animals and human health. And under the protocol, Northern Ireland has remained in line with the EU standards in order to avoid the need for checks across the island, meaning that checks must be imposed on goods arriving there from Britain. So, as a condition for agreeing to continue with imports of fresh meats, the member states will insist that Britain must continue to follow EU rules on agriculture for the duration. So, what right now? Well, the UK will have to follow all of this, and that they insist that Britain must follow the rules that the EU is setting out on agriculture. Because look, listen, although Brexit is happening right now, the UK is powerless, and Britain needs to know that okay, with the current situation, they will have to go through with the EU. Otherwise, they will be incurring tariffs, and they will take it to legal cases, and they will they will build up on this, and they will impose a lot of these tariffs. And this is something that we want to avoid as much as possible. When it comes to tariffs and all that. And in addition, the 27 countries will insist that an extension can only be granted to both sides more time to find a possible and a permanent solution to this. So right now they're looking into all of this, and the EU has proposed that Britain should formally agree to align on plant and animal rules, which it says would make obsolete 80% of checks currently required into Northern Ireland. So they're saying, okay, this is what the EU is proposing, that Britain should formally agree to this to align on this whole plant and animal rules that they have. This is gonna So if they do follow this, if the UK does go through with this, well, the situation will change, and then they can actually cut down on 80% of these checks currently required in Northern Ireland. However, London has ruled this out as contrary to the goals of Brexit, as it would require accepting EU standards. It has no role in setting. Because listen, we got to understand the UK has decided this is the point where we said, okay, why did we have Brexit? Why did Brexit even happen? Brexit happened because the UK does not want to follow any of the EU's rules anymore. They don't want to follow on their imposed rules. So that's why we did Brexit. That's why Brexit actually happened, if you consider all of that. But we got to understand now the EU wants us to follow these rules. So it's going to be a post-Brexit, but at the same time, we're still having connections to that X. And we don't want that. We want to avoid that as much as possible. So right now, the European Commission has, under pressure from national capitals to ensure that Britain implements the post-Brexit arrangements agreed last year in order to protect the single market from risks or unfair competition if goods enter via Northern Ireland that has not had to conform to the EU standards. So yeah, these are just things that they are talking about, and they will be discussing. I'm telling you right now, this way the situation is going, it's not pretty clear. It's not pretty clear cut as you would actually consider, or you would actually think. I mean, the way the UK is handling things, it only goes to show that it is going to cause a rise and an escalate. Hopefully it will, they can avoid an escalation when it comes to this particular situation. And yeah, with the ongoing problems right now, Mr. Sefcovic also said that the member states on Wednesday that there was a need to avoid raising tensions as the peak of the marching season approaches, and the issue of symbolic significance, though major supermarkets in North have indicated that they are able to source fresh meats locally without any sort of problem and any sort of issue. I mean, they're discussing all these things, and they're saying, okay, we can do this. We don't really need to depend on the UK. So on the UK about this, we don't really need them. And yeah, with these things, we can actually get it all locally. So there's no problem with that regards. And yeah, looking at all these scenes, the whole talk, the move came as Northern Ireland Secretary Brandon Lewis told MPs he's confident that Britain and the EU would agree to changes to the operation of the protocol. But Downing Street said it would not, and had not yet agreed to align temporarily with the EU food standards if a grace period for chilled meats was extended. So Mr. Lewis said that the Northern Ireland Affairs Committee, that almost every business group he had met in the North said they had issues with the protocol and they wanted to see it resolved. So right now, Britain is asking all these questions. And he went on to say, Brandon Lewis went on to say that we have been very clear that the current position of the protocol is not sustainable and we need to rectify that. And I am optimistic and confident we will get that done in the time ahead. And I think it's reasonable for anyone to take the view that there will be changes. There has to be changes. So Britain has asked for the EU for an extension until the end of this year of a grace period on restrictions on chilled meats from Great Britain entering Northern Ireland. And sources have been talking about all these things on Wednesday. And right now, that European Council Vice President Maros Sefcovic had advised member states that they should grant the extensions quickly. And according to the report, the member states actually talking about this agreed to the grant and the request on condition that Britain continues to align with EU food standards for the duration of the extension, and that both sides would seek a long-term solution for food consignments crossing the Irish Sea. So this is just some things that they're discussing and they're looking into. Hopefully there is something going on, and a bit more they will talk about this. But hey, with that being said, we're going to be taking a real quick break before we wrap up the show with the final talk segment. So make sure you guys keep it locked right here on Relaks Radio. And taking a look at your time right now, it is 5:46. Good evening.
Now, there's a lot of conversation around who pays more taxes, if it is the rich or if it is the poor, right? But when you are basically going out and during a day, you go to a restaurant, you have to pay taxes there. You buy a car, you have to pay taxes there. So why is it even a conversation that, the rich pay less taxes or the poor pay more taxes? Why is it a conversation like that?
Because it's true, the rich generally pay less tax. A rich person walks into a Tesco's or a Sainsbury's, they're not going to get a different bill than another person, right? They're still going to pay the same VAT on those goods, they're still going to pay the same thing. So that's all the same. However, the differences come in if you can pay yourself from your own company, you can structure it in a way that you pay less income tax through paying a bit of salary, paying dividends and so forth, and then also deferring income. Also, your pension payments or contributions can be different. So that increases your tax sort of gap, if you want to use it that way. Where a PAYE person just gets paid salary and bonus. And now those are the most highly taxed sources of income in the UK, definitely, in the UK. We've seen it, right? If an owner of a large public traded company does something wrong, irrelevant of what that company does or how valuable that company is, the stock generally falls into a pool of nothing, right? Because in a public company where the stock is traded openly on the stock exchange, the value of that stock is driven by supply and demand, it's driven by emotion, it's driven by news, it's driven by quite a lot of variables over and above the actual accounting or total net worth of that company. I mean, we've seen it, right? If an owner of a large public traded company does something wrong, irrelevant of what that company does or how valuable that company is, the stock generally falls into a pool of nothing, right? And the company may still have value, it may still be doing quite a good thing. One of the easiest ways to increase your net worth is to ensure that you have higher cash flows. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to not buy things on hire purchase, not buy things over months and months because you can't afford them now but you want it. It's kind of that delayed gratification. Rather than buy that couch, that car, that stereo, that computer, whatever item, and pay it off over 12, 24, 36 months at an interest rate, rather invest that money, make do with what you've got, And then after 12, 24, 36 months, take the money that you've now invested and buy that good. An asset could be anything that appreciates or reduces a tax bill. So it could still be a liability, but it reduces their tax bill. And I'm not going to go into the technicalities because that's out of our remit here. However, for our use or our purpose, what we are talking for the listeners here is I would put this definition of an asset forward. An asset is anything that increases your income. Anything.
Now, there's a lot of conversation around who pays more taxes, if it is the rich or if it is the poor, right? When you are basically going out and during a day, if you go to a restaurant, you have to pay taxes there. If you buy a car, you have to pay taxes there. So why is it even a conversation that, the rich pay less taxes or the poor pay more taxes? Why is it a conversation like that?
Because it's true, the rich generally pay less tax. A rich person walks into a Tesco's or a Sainsbury's, they're not going to get a different bill than another person, right? They're still going to pay the same VAT on those goods. They're still going to pay the same thing. So that's all the same. However, the differences come in if you can pay yourself from your own company, you can structure it in a way that you pay less income tax through paying a bit of salary, paying dividends, and so forth, and then also deferring income. Also, your pension payments or contributions can be different. So that increases your tax sort of gap, if that, if you want to use it that way. Where a PAYE person just gets paid salary and bonus. And now those are the most highly taxed sources of income in the UK, definitely, in the UK.
Hold up, if you wanna go and take a ride with me, better hit me, baby, one more time.
More variety than you can imagine. Relax Radio.
Welcome back to the show. This is Relaks Radio, RELAKS right here. And my name is Nick, and I'm keeping you guys company on the final stretch of the show. That's right. We were talking about all things going on in the UK, and there's been a lot of this discussion actually very late, in case you guys are wondering what this is all about. Right now, well, the Euro 2020 government has urged the quarantine of the UEFA officials. So, a lot of these officials who are coming in from this country, from a lot of these countries for the Euro 2020. Right now, the government has been criticized for actually considering waiving the normal quarantine rules for the UEFA football officials and VIP guests to ensure the Euro 2020 finals are held at Wembley. So this is a matter of concern because right now we have to understand just because the rules, just because, certain officials are organizing or the sporting event and all of that jazz, they have to undergo the same rules. I mean, if these people are coming from red light countries or red, the red districts or red countries, well, what's the whole point of the traffic light system then? I mean, it doesn't mean, it's just one guy who's coming into the country. It's not really going to harm us. I mean, look, one guy is enough to spread it to 6 different people or 10 different people. That 10 different people are going to spread to another 100 people. You don't even know the number. So these guys I don't really understand how the government is working. And I can see that what they're trying to do, they're trying to make sure, okay, this is what we do. I mean, we just get in a few officials and we keep them, we try to make sure that they are socially distanced and that they don't spread any of this sort of the virus or anything. We're going to follow a strict protocol. I mean, what's the point of saying you follow a strict protocol if you're actually not following the protocol? I mean, that in itself actually beats it. That's the whole essence of this sort of thing. And you are beating the whole essence of it by not actually going through with the protocol. And with that regards, though, the government has been talking about this. So the matches right now in the ongoing tournament are taking place across Europe until the final on 11th of July. So in the 11th of July, that is the final. And the plan is to get a lot of these UEFA officials down from that. But there has been talks also, there has been discussions that if the UK does not allow and they don't consider allowing these officials and VIPs to come into the country, well, they will actually decide to move the game elsewhere, and that is going to be a problem. And that could even be the possibility of Budapest actually being one of those countries that Budapest would actually be one of the sites where their stadiums could actually hold the final match. So that's something that the UK right now wants to avoid. So Labour Shadow Transport Secretary Jim McCone has actually said that UEFA tickets should be given to fans instead. And Transport Secretary Grant Shapps said officials would be tested daily. So a lot of these officials would actually be tested. And they said they'll be testing them daily. And Mr. Shapps said the successful events research program, which is running up to 15 test events for crowds in the UK, was allowing people to take part in the sporting and cultural events. And with that regards, they are going to be talking about this, and they will be taking this into consideration and looking deep into this as much as possible. And practically right now, the way it is going and the way the situation is building up, it doesn't look like it's going to be a clear cut. So with that regards, though, this is a continuation of this, he added, adding that football officials will only be able to come here to go to football, and they'll need to be tested, and they'll need to be tested daily. But look, again, the government discussed all of these things and they planned X, Y, and Z. But you have to understand, yes, okay, you're going to let them come in just to see football and then they have to go back to their countries. But that just beats the purpose, because the whole point of travel restriction is anybody could have done that same thing. I mean, what is the government even going on about and actually considering this, it's, in my opinion, nonsensical request. And looking at all this, they also need to be tested, and they need to be tested daily is what they're saying. And UEFA, the European football's governing body, and the tournament's organizer has demanded that 2,500 officials and the VIP guests be allowed into the country without quarantine if the UK wants to host the semifinals and finals. I mean, that's unfair in my case, because looking at it, it's like they're trying to bully their way into the country when we all know that the COVID situation does not allow otherwise. So Labour's Jonathan Ashworth said he could not see how it could possibly be justified to let UEFA officials and sponsors get around quarantine rules to attend games in the UK. So he said the UK could not afford to be complacent over the virus because of its long-term effects on some people, but that it would be the case if officials were allowed in without quarantine. And speaking for the government, the Justice Secretary Robert Buckland said negotiations with UEFA were ongoing and officials would have to stay in designated hotels and use designated transport. Because look, I understand, like I said, this is the situation, it demands for it, it calls for it. And if you don't follow the rules, and if the government, does what it wants to do, and without following, helping and listening to the people and the public, and you're setting a bad example with the situation, with the ongoing situation, you are already facing a lot of backlash from the people with the ongoing situation. And in addition to all of that, there's going to be problems like this that will arise, and it will cause rise for concern, because people will not believe into the government. They won't have their confidence in the government, and that will be broken. And that's something that we want to avoid at all costs at all. So this is just something that we are, as a people, we will have to look into this as much as possible. And the government has to make smart decisions, in my opinion. So Mr. Buckland went on to say, that the Euro 2020 games would bring a lot of joy and a lot of revenue. And Mr. Buckland said the rationale behind these decisions was waiting to attract a major international football tournament to the UK. But the Green Party's Caroline Lucas responded that the decision was deep hypocrisy, and she accused the government of putting out the red carpet for government officials and players, and all of these things, they are discussing. And for football officials, while she said there were many who hadn't been able to see loved ones throughout this pandemic, because look, the government is allowing X, Y, and Z number of people to come into the country. And they are saying, okay, you can come. 2,500 people, to be exact, can come into our country right now and make sure that they can do whatever they want. They can come into the country. They can watch their football match. And these people are from different parts of Europe. A lot of these countries could either be in the red list or even could be in the amber list, for all we know. So a lot of these people are coming into the country. What is it going to cause us? What it's going to do is actually cause concern and rise for problems. And that's going to be that's going to be very, very, it's going to hurt the people's confidence in the government, is what I'd like to say. And that consideration as well has to be taken into consideration. So there's been a lot of people who couldn't even travel to these countries, who couldn't even travel to these amber list countries without getting quarantined. And you're expecting to bring in 2,500 people into this country? I mean, come on, guys. Let's be honest. unrest. That's not something that you should be doing. I mean, we want to avoid the spread as much as possible. And the way, we're handling it is not the proper way, in my opinion. I mean, looking at all these things, like I said, it is a rise. It is a cause for concern because people have been losing their loved ones, or might be, have not seen their loved ones in so long a time, and you're letting officials, 2,500 to be exact, into the country without any sort of quarantine. Even though if they're jabbed or not, doesn't matter. They're coming into the country without any sort of 14-day quarantine. That's going to cause a rise in the problem, and the people are not going to be happy with that. And there's going to be a lot of pushback, and people, like I said, are going to be frustrated with the current regime, the way the government is handling things. And it stinks. I mean, is what they're saying. It does stink. I mean, it stinks because, look, there's a lot of political game involved. And just because a certain number of people are bullying you into this, I mean, this is what the EU does. It bullies a bunch of people, a certain number of people, and tell them, okay, X, Y, and Z, this is what you're supposed to do. This is how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to comply by our rules. And now, look, UFA is the same thing. UFA is telling, if you don't let our people in without any quarantine and without any isolation, well, we will take our games elsewhere. And the government is so afraid of that, and they want to comply with their rules and actually consider bringing these people into the country. And that is a concern, and that's a problem that we need to resolve as quick as possible, as soon as possible. I don't know about you guys, but I think that is something that we need to do right now. And hey, if you have your opinions, well, hit me up with the numbers 07852-473-473. That's right. Those are the magical numbers. And also don't forget, you can download the app from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Carry us all day, every day. And with that being said, it is about that time of the day for me to head on out of here. But don't worry, I'll be catching you guys again on Monday. Same time, same place, right here at Relaks Radio. That's right. And in the meantime, you guys can always download our app that is on the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. And with that, my name is Nick, and I'm